Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the GCSE Options Evening today. First of all, just a brief introduction, as I'm fairly new to the school, as in 3 days old, and it's an absolute delight to be here at Kingsley for several reasons, not least because we're starting to see that community and those relationships reformed by parents being able to come back into the school and have evenings like this, and hopefully Zoom parents' evenings and Zoom information evenings are a thing of the past, and we can start to see more and more of you in school. It's also an absolute delight because, as I said, I've now landed, my feet are now firmly here, and although I've been flying in and out a little bit over the last 6 months, I am now thankfully here to stay. It's a long journey back to where I was previously. But my only apology on that is that I do seem to have brought an awful lot of rain and wind with me as well, so hopefully that will soon pass too. Well, this evening is all about GCSE options. It's about what happens next in your child's education and for the students, for you to have a really good think and start looking at the various options for GCSE for Key Stage 4, which is the next part of your educational journey. And although Mrs. Hamilton in a moment is going to speak more about the actual curriculum choices and how to do those, the one overarching thing I would say to everybody is, at this point, keep your options broad, keep your choices broad. Don't worry about knowing or thinking you need to know what you're going to do for the rest of your life. All of that comes much later. Think about subjects that you enjoy. Think about subjects that you really want to do, that you find interesting. And sometimes that's even because you just find the teachers interesting. Those are the subjects that you're going to do very well at in the future. So that's the guiding star, I would say, in how to determine your GCSE options. But more from that in a moment from Mrs. Hamilton. Just a little bit about not the curriculum as such, but the rest of life at Kingsley and what an education needs to encompass. So we have the curriculum there on the right-hand side. Down the bottom there, if you can see that, we have, of course, the pastoral care that is so important. So important to support the curriculum, to support your child's journey through the next few years. That wraparound care that we are able to provide through the house system, by the tutors, the house tutors, through the pastoral team that we have at Kingsley. A school where, as you already know, teachers know students, students know teachers very, very well. Those relationships are so important. They're not in a class of 30 students in a year group of 360 where the teachers don't really know the students. This is a school that prides itself on pastoral care, and that's why results are what they are. And then finally, expansive curriculum, and what I mean by that is all the added things that your sons and daughters do while they're at school, from sports, music, creative arts, adventurous pursuits, and I'll talk about some of those again in a moment. Okay, so the pastoral care, what we're really focusing on there is that strong house and tutor system that we have, where your sons and daughters will always know where they can find support, will always have support and good advice. The welfare provision that we have in place at the school for students in terms of support plans, anything at all where there is a need for intervention, for extra help, we're able to pick that up and provide the right level of support there. And then moving across, SEN is not just special educational needs for academic teaching. An awful lot of pastoral work is done by our TAs and by the SEN department in supporting your child's welfare and supporting their journey through, particularly Key Stage 4, year 10 and 11. And then mental health. Mental health is so important, and I'm going to take you on to a further slide there around mental health. It's about balance. It's mental health and well-being is not about removing all the obstacles in a child's life or even an adult's life in our lives. It's about learning to cope with them, to keep things in perspective, learning to manage with obstacles and pressures, and making sure that we mitigate against having those pressures in the first place by getting a really good balanced diet of occupation. So it's not just all academics, academics, academics. We're looking at getting active, going back to that expansive curriculum I mentioned, making sure we're doing some exercise, playing some sport, whether it's a high level, county, national sort of level sport, or whether it's just recreational with your friends. either and all in between are so important in helping to have some balance. And it's not just sport either. It could be drama, it could be singing, it could be dancing, it could be walking out on the moors, 10 tours, D&V, and all of those things. Learning and achieving, not just learning and achieving in the classroom, but learning new skills. Learning, again, through the activities programs that run 4 till 5, and of course, now that we're moving out of COVID, we hope to start building that program up again to ensure that there are lots of opportunities to learn new skills, achieve new things, whether it's, again, I'll use D&V as an example, it could be the Arts Award, it could be 10 tours, but learning and achieving. Giving and learning to be a little bit more philanthropic in the way that we lead our lives. For those couple just said philanthropic, what does that mean? Giving and being charitable and learning that actually that is important, not just for society, but for our own well-being ourselves. It makes us feel good to know that we are doing some good to the community, to the wider community, and indeed internationally as well. Appreciating what we have, appreciating all of our opportunities is an important one, and that is something that, again, we will be building into the Key Stage 4 programme over the next 2 years to ensure that all of these are made explicit, and so all of the students understand how they are getting involved in giving, appreciating, etc. And finally, engaging with the school, engaging with each other, engaging with the opportunities, engaging with the environment, the community. These are ways in which we can all start to feel a lot better about ourselves by being connected. So whilst these look like a series of little buzzwords there on the screen, they're not. They're a plan, a structure that will be incorporated into the students' journey over the next 2 years so that they can see how they can benefit from these particular areas and develop that positive mental health that we would want. Some of our ideals built into how we're going to deliver these pathways to mental health, how we're going to deliver this character education, how we're going to build personality, character and well-being and resilience amongst our students. The opportunities are there in these sections where we're looking at internationalism and taking advantage of the really diverse international community that we are at Kingsley anyway. And then making sure that we're reaching out, looking beyond Bideford, looking beyond Devon, looking nationally and internationally at opportunities to engage, to get involved with charities, organisations, etc. Democracy, being part of the school community to ensure that everyone has leadership opportunities and is able to take part in how we shape and how we develop as a school. Going round to the environment, of course, the Earth Centre is absolutely key to what we hope to achieve at Kingsley in terms of an education. Everybody going into the world of work in the next 10 years is going to have a keen understanding of what sustainability is all about and what it means. It's a multi-billion pound industry in this country, across Europe, across the world. And opportunities and understanding about sustainable industry, sustainable growth, sustainable living is something that everyone is going to need to know about. Kingsley students will, I hope, have that advantage over competitors going into the jobs market in the future. And then finally, I'll just point out service there as well, and the opportunity going back to giving, going back to charitable work, going back to looking for organisations and opportunities locally and internationally. Service meaning that we all learn to actually give to our communities to make ourselves better global citizens, but to make the world a better place as well. So before I hand over to Mrs. Hamilton on the curriculum, I just wanted to point out these 5 sectors here. This makes up the EBAC. Now you may have heard, and it's been in the press again quite recently, what the EBAC is, the English Baccalaureate. It's not a qualification in itself, it's a government measure of subjects that students are doing, and across the country the government are keen that schools press these particular subjects or these areas. Everybody will be doing English, maths and science anyway as core subjects, but if you are interested in completing that EBAC model there, then you'll be looking at a modern language which is invaluable in the world, going back to internationalism and looking beyond the borders of Kingsley, of Bideford, of Devon, of Southwest, and looking beyond into the international world of work. Then languages are really important. As then are humanities for the EBAC to complete that, history perhaps, RE, geography, or something like that. However, massive caveat here, if the EBAC is not the thing that everybody needs to be striving for, it's not for everybody. Many of you are sitting here thinking, I don't want to do a language, I don't want to do a humanity, and that's absolutely fine. You do the subjects, like I said at the beginning, that you enjoy. But just be conscious that the EBAC does exist and it is something for you to consider. Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks. So I'm just going to talk a little bit more about the options process and what happens, because this is the first time that in your education that you've actually had some choice in what you can take. So first of all, there's two types of courses that we offer. There's GCSE courses, and they are academic courses, which it's mainly examination, but there are some controlled assessments. So for people that remember coursework, controlled assessment's a little bit like that, but actually you're not allowed to take it out of the classroom anymore. So it's kind of like coursework that you have to do at school. So GCSEs are graded 9 to 1, so we don't have, I know this is not that new anymore, but actually we don't have letter grades anymore. And a grade 4 is considered what we would say is a good pass, so 1 is the lowest and 9 is the highest. We also have vocational courses. So these are more practical subjects, and they're mainly assessed by coursework and small exams. So the exams that the students do have to take are normally online exams or just quite short exams. And they're not taken at the end of the course, they're taken throughout the course. So these are just graded in a different way. So you have distinction star, distinction, merit, and pass. So there's two levels, level 1 and level 2. So I'll just bring those up here so you can see. Oh, sorry, that's not meant to have come up on top of each other like that. But you can see that actually a grade 4 is equivalent to an old C grade. The other grades, you can't see them up on there now. But a grade 9 is meant to be just a little bit higher than what an A star used to be. And then you can see the vocational courses on the other side, where you've got a level 2 distinction star is the highest, and that's equivalent to a grade 8. And then if you go down to a level 1 pass, that's still equivalent to a GCSE, but it's at a grade 1 pass. So the aim is that everyone does level 2, but actually if you're not coping with the level 2, then you can do the level 1 qualification for the vocational courses. So the subjects are divided into two different parts. We've got the core subjects. So these are the subjects that everyone does, so you don't have an option for these. Now there is obviously some, if you've got special needs, it might be that we talk about an alternative curriculum. So it might be that you don't do sciences because that's the right thing for you. But as a school, most children will do these core subjects. And then you've got the optional subjects, which you have a choice over and you can pick from them. And you have to pick 4 of those. So these are our core subjects. So we've got English language and literature. Now they're studied at the same time in English lessons, and some lessons will be more language-based, some will be more literature. And Miss Makepeace is going to talk a bit more about that in a minute. And then we've also got mathematics, which Mr. McCaffrey will talk about. And then religious education and PSE, so person and social education, they're kind of taught together, and they are kind of compulsory that everyone will do them, but they don't lead to qualifications. And then we've got the sciences. Now everyone does biology, chemistry and physics, which is 2 subjects, which I know it's strange, it's 3 subjects combined into 2, but you can actually opt to take separate science, and what that means is that you end up with 3 GCSEs. So everyone still does biology, chemistry and physics, but you either have 2 GCSEs at the end of it or 3. And then everyone does games as well, so we still do PE. So these are the ones which will lead to GCSEs, whereas the other ones are actually just part of our curriculum. So these are our optional subjects which you have to pick 4, and as you can see, for such a small school we've got a really wide range of options there. So please, if you haven't done so already, do go around and ask about all of them and make sure that you have an open mind about the qualifications. Well, the one I haven't mentioned is our ASDAN PASE, which is a vocational course as well, and that's more of a project based. So if you do struggle with exams, I would go and ask Miss Stella about that qualification. So I'm going to hand over to James now as head of maths.
Joe.
On the side.
I'm Mr. McCaffrey, I'm the head of Maths and Science. We've stepped over here, so that's on the Zoom. I'm the head of Maths and Science. Obviously, we've got a separate science table upstairs, so if you want to talk about science, come up to that. But as maths is the core, there we go, as maths is the core, we've just got a quick talk in here. This is exactly what Mrs. Hamilton just told you. So we've got 2 options, or 2 tiers at GCSE. We've got the higher tier, which is targeted for grades 4 to 9, but they do have a bit of a grade 3 safety net in there as well. And for the foundation tier, it's grades 1 to 5. So that's 2 completely different exams with different exam focuses, which I'll put up in a second. We've got 3 papers in maths. We've got the first paper, which is the non-calculator paper, followed by 2 calculator papers, and they're all an hour and a half each. And if you look at the breakdown of some of these topic areas, so everyone studies all the topic areas, number, algebra, ratio, proportion, and rates of change, geometry, measures, and statistics, and probability. But if you look at the slight percentage weighting differences between the foundation and the higher courses, there's a bit more focus on the number topics in the foundation course because it's more important to get some of those life skills developed that will go on to be useful sort of wherever you go. Whereas if you're looking for the higher course, maybe you're thinking about the A-level or A-level sciences, we need you to be sort of arriving with sort of some of these stronger algebra skills and some of the like geometry and measure. So there's a bit more of a focus on different aspects, some of the more abstract areas of maths rather than the number, the a bit more black and white and possibly relatable topics. Why maths? Why is it a core subject for everyone? Well, most careers in further study, certainly at university, will expect a pass, so a grade 4 or above in maths, so it's quite important to open those doors as you go forwards. Gives you some brilliant skills, whatever your career is. I know, the old, you're not going to walk around with a calculator in your pocket, and yes, you are now, cool, but you need to be able to use it. Useful for your career, but also useful for your life. Good fun, gives you lots of degree choice options. There's a bit of something for everyone. Increases typically your earning potentials, having a slightly higher maths GCSE, and of course, obviously, all the maths teachers are fantastic. So, it's a little bit difficult. At the bottom, the big long red bar, that's the number of A-level maths entries in 2020. So you can see maths A-level is the most popular by a very, very long way. Just ahead of psychology, biology, chemistry, and then a bit of a drop back to history. But lots of people go on to study maths because it helps you at A-level, but bit of a confusing graph, but we like them. Typically, 92% of A-level students arrive with a grade 7 or above in maths if they're studying maths A-level. So grade 7, we're talking an A in the old money. So really, you want to be coming fully charged, ready to go, because if you're a grade A student, the number nationally that go from a grade A at GCSE, only 4% get an A star. It is really quite it's a tough old course, and really you're starting from the start of year 9, your GCSE maths, carrying that through into years 10 and 11, and we really want to carry some momentum into the A-level. so that you really know what you're doing. I will be up on the science stand upstairs, so if you do have any math-specific questions, then come and see me for those as well.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Catherine Makepeace. I'm the head of English, and I'm here to talk to you about English language and literature. It is an integrated course. Mrs. Hamilton said already that basically we don't timetable it separately. It's timetabled as English, but students are prepared for 2 GCSEs, English language and English literature. And there are transferable skills. Obviously, all the time in literature, you are using your language skills. You are writing, you are reading. But in language, you're also using some of your literature skills, quotations, picking out features of a piece of writing. Everyone will study English in some form. If you are a first language English speaker, you will study first language English GCSE and English literature. If you are a second language speaker, some of you will also get the chance to study these GCSEs, and that decision will be made at the end of year 9 based on what we know of you at the moment and also your end of year English exam and in discussion with you and your parents. If you don't study these, you'll be following an English as an additional language course, and you will take English exams which are specifically aimed at second language learners and speakers. So everyone will be doing some form of English. English language, this is the one which students always say to me in year 11, which is the one I have to get, miss? And really it's this one, because this is the one that is your ticket to A-levels, college, a job, and basically a successful future. And really, you do need to get your English language. It facilitates every other subject you do, and it is incredibly important. And we build on what you've been doing right the way through years 7, 8, and 9. You do reading comprehension, and we're testing also your ability to write. Students read both non-fiction and fiction. They write creatively, they write descriptively, they write discursively. They get a chance to express an opinion, to write persuasively. And students learn to analyse how other people write and use their techniques. And I think it's really useful because those of us who are perhaps a little bit older and more experienced know that writers manipulate us. And it's good to be able to work out how a writer might be manipulating you or persuading you. And then you can make your own mind up. Moving on, part of that is spoken language. I say it's part of it. It's what students call, and what we always used to call, the oral exam. It used to actually contribute to the final GCSE grade. It doesn't any longer, which I think is a great shame. However, everyone has to take it, or they will not be awarded a GCSE in English language. It is a compulsory part of the course. And I know some people find this hard. Students have to give a presentation in front of an audience of their peers. We pride ourselves in the English department on the work we do in public speaking. And all of you have done it. Those of you who have been here since year 7, you should be experienced when you get to year 10 and 11. If you are someone who really finds speaking in front of an audience incredibly hard, there are ways we can adapt it to make it slightly easier for you. And we do our absolutely best to make sure it's not too scary an experience. And essentially, people can talk about what they like. You can talk about something you are passionate about. And quite often, you don't get that opportunity. And everyone has to listen to you. Moving on to English literature. English literature, I always figure, is actually the fun part of the course. And it's where certainly teachers enjoy themselves most. The bones of it are that you study 4 texts over the 2 years. You have to do a Shakespeare play. We usually teach Macbeth, but I'm not saying for sure it will be. You have to study a 19th century novel. We've studied in the past Jekyll and Hyde, The Sign of 4, which is a Sherlock Holmes book, A Christmas Carol, but there are other books available. You have to do a 20th, or it could be a 21st century text. Again, we've done Animal Farm, we've done an Inspector Calls, and you have to study an anthology of poetry. There are 2 units, and you do one or the other. You either do war and conflict, or you do love and relationships. Mrs. Marquis Giorgio usually does war and conflict, and I usually do love and relationships. So I don't know if that says something about the 2 of us. It will help develop your language skills. If you are keen to take your English on to A-level, it's English Lit we teach at A-level. It's English Lit that most university departments specialise more in than they do in language. But even if you don't want to do A-level, it's an amazing subject because you visit other worlds. You visit other countries, you empathise with people. And so studying literature will teach you social skills and life skills. It may be that in year 11, certain students decide they would like to drop literature. That's a discussion that I'm having just at the moment with year 11. If they feel they haven't done well in their mock exams and they want to focus solely on language, that's a discussion that is possible. But everyone studies literature up until this point in year 11. And even if you drop it, you stay in the lessons. So in effect, you are still getting exposed to the literature. The final thing that I've added in is there are no higher and foundation levels in English any longer. I actually, again, think that's a pity, but it is what it is. So it means every student is entered for the same exams in language and literature. And I appreciate that is very challenging for some people, but we will support you as far as we can. Everything apart from the spoken language is assessed by end of course exams. The spoken language we usually assess towards the end of year 10. It has to be videoed, it's done in school, it's marked in school. But if you mess up, you've got year 11 to have another go at it. The information's in the booklet. I will be upstairs afterwards. I don't have a table, but I'll be there if anyone wants to ask about anything I've said. I know there are 2 questions people always ask me, and I can't answer them at this stage. People say, who's going to teach my child and what group will they be in? One thing I should say, on the whole, we teach in mixed ability sets because we don't have foundation and higher. And we find that as a successful model. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Catherine. So just to say, to be clear, the reason we're putting such a focus on maths and English is because not only does everyone have to take them, but actually it is the expectation that everyone tries to pass maths and English, which I've talked about, is a grade 4. So if you don't achieve the grade 4, which not everyone does, you do continue to study it into sixth form. The other thing to say about maths and English is that people will continue to ask your maths and English grades all the way through your life, really. So actually, it's quite often on job descriptions that the expectation of what you've got in your maths and English GCSEs. So how do you go about choosing your options? So as Mr. Pavis has already said, choose options that you like, choose subjects that you're good at, and choose subjects that interest you. Do not choose a subject because your friend is doing it. That's one of the most common things that I deal with, is that people want to do the subjects because their friends are doing it, and actually that's normally when students fail at subjects and don't do very well at it, because actually they're not picking it for themselves, and actually then sometimes your friend might change their mind and then you're left doing that subject without them. So don't choose it because of the teacher, because obviously things change, but I'm sure that the teacher will influence your choice, because if you love a subject, then I'm sure the teacher has had a lot to do with that. But just do bear in mind that actually teachers do change, and we can't guarantee that it will be that teacher that takes the subject. So just be wary of that. So what to do next? So this is for the students, really. It's really important to speak to all the teachers about it. Make sure you speak to your tutor and head of year, get some advice. What do they think? Be careful about, listening to one person. Make sure you get lots of advice from different people. But do speak to your parents as well. They'll have, some information of what they think, their experiences. Actually, adults have all been through it before. So, what would they change if they went back? And it's really important that you find out about the course. So, like, for example, if you think, I really want to do hospitality because I like cooking, but actually there are other parts to that course. It's not just cooking all the time. So actually really find out exactly what you have to do for the course, what do you have to do for the exam, and will that suit you? Is that the sort of thing that you would like to do? And it is your choice. You do have the final say. And finally, just as a little bit of kind of admin on this, we'll be asking for the choices after half term. That's when we'll ask you to commit. You can actually change very easily up till Easter. So you might say, I'm going to do hospitality, and then, oh no, I'm going to change it. And I have people knocking on my door all the time saying, I've changed my mind again. And that's fine up until Easter. It does get a little bit harder after Easter, because what happens at Easter is we confirm our staffing for next year, and I put all the groups into option blocks. So I make sure that as many people can get their options as possible. And we do ask people to get a reserve. Last year I only had to ask one person to pick from their reserve, because I have to make the timetable fit. So that's why it's really important that I know that information as much as possible, so I can set the blocks based on the options that you want. And if you start changing, then that becomes a little bit of a problem. That's our contact details up there. Just hand over to Rob. Thanks.
The one key message that I'm going to take away from this evening is that I do need to replace the lamp. Apart from that, I hope there have been many key messages that are going to be useful for you to take away this evening. And please do go back upstairs and talk to any of the teachers that you still need to talk to. Thank you very much indeed for coming.